In the lawless boomtowns of 1880s Colorado, where gold fever and railroad tracks carved fortunes from the wild frontier, one sheriff's dark command set a child's fate adrift on a raging river. Years later, the same waters returned a stranger whose secret would shatter an empire of lies. Welcome to another unearthed chapter on Fated Truth's history. You won't believe what the river kept hidden. Chapter 1. In the shadow of Colorado's jagged Rocky Mountains, the year was 1885, and Black Gulch clung to the raw frontier like a miner's stubborn claim on a thinning vein. Gold fever had drawn thousands, ragged prospectors swinging pickaxes in the hills, sharp-eyed speculators riding in from Denver, families hauling rickety wagons down muddy trails in search of dreams. The iron rails of the new Denver and Rio Grande Railroad sliced through the gulch, steam locomotives shrieking day and night, hauling ore cars piled high with glittering quartz laced through black coal dust. Saloons lined the main drag, their false fronts painted garish red and gold, spilling fiddle music, raucous laughter, and the sour tang of spilled whiskey into the dry mountain air. Gunfights settled grudges at high noon under a merciless sun, while claim jumpers vanished into the sagebrush under cover of starlit skies. But beneath the rush of fortune and frontier grit lay a tangled web of hidden shames, illicit affairs that crossed forbidden lines, babies born to the wrong mothers, and men in power who crushed whispers before they could spread into scandals. Sheriff Harlan Cole was the iron fist that kept Black Gulch from tearing itself apart. At 42, he cut an imposing figure, 6'4", broad as a barn door, with a sweeping black mustache that hid a perpetual sneer. His cold blue eyes missed nothing. From a gambler's sleight of hand at the faro table to a miner's furtive glance at another's poke of dust. The silver star pinned to his leather vest gleamed like a warning, earned through years of taming outlaws and bending the law to his own will. He owned half the town's assay office, where he weighed claims and skimmed quietly off the top. Saloon keepers paid him protection in crisp bills slipped under poker chips, and 5 miles up the canyon, his prim wife Eliza raised their 2 legitimate sons amid lace curtains, polished silver, and daily Bible verses. Folks whispered that Harlan's justice came swift and bloody. No trials, no judges, just ropes slung from cottonwoods or shallow graves dug in remote arroyos. Crossing him meant ruin, or worse, a midnight bullet from the shadows. One sweltering August evening, as the sun dipped behind the peaks and painted the gulch in bloody hues of crimson and orange, chaos erupted inside the Red Rock Saloon. The place reeked of sweat-soaked flannel shirts, cheap perfume clinging to dance hall girls, and the acrid bite of cigar smoke curling from brass cuspidors. Roughnecks crowded the scarred oak bar, slamming tin cups of rot-gut whiskey while a piano man plinked out Camptown races on yellowed keys. Far in the back, huddled in a scarred booth lit by a flickering kerosene lantern, sat Maria Lopez. She was 24, with raven hair pinned loosely in a careless bun and faded green eyes inherited from her Irish mother back in Boston. 2 years earlier, she'd fled the East Coast on a promise of marriage to a rail engineer who abandoned her flat in Denver with nothing but regrets. Now she poured drinks for tips and danced for the miners' leers, her calico dress threadbare from too many harsh washes in cold creek water. In her arms, she cradled her newborn son, born just 3 days prior in a cramped attic room above the saloon, amid the sounds of drunken revelry below. The boy was tiny, with a shock of pale blonde hair and eyes the color of a high country sky, blue as Harlan's own, a detail that twisted her gut with both hope and dread. Maria hummed a soft Irish lullaby, Danny Boy, her voice trembling faintly as she rocked him against the relentless din of the room. The batwing doors slammed open with a thunderous bang that silenced the saloon like a gunshot. Harlan strode in, spurs jingling like death knells on his booted heels, his Stetson pulled low over his brow and a coiled bullwhip dangling ominously from his belt. He'd ridden hell for leather from the ranch after a stable boy spilled the ugly news. The saloon gal had whelped a light-skinned brat that bore an uncanny resemblance to the sheriff himself. Eliza had cornered him that very morning in their kitchen, her pinched face twisted with suspicion from town talk that slithered through the markets and churches. Harlan's blood boiled as his eyes locked on Maria. He shoved through the crowd, miners scattering like startled quail before a hawk, grabbed her slender shoulder in a vice grip, and spun her around to face him. The baby let out a piercing wail, flailing tiny pink fists that caught the lantern's dim glow, illuminating features too familiar for comfort. "You damned idiot!" Harlan snarled, his voice a venomous rasp that cut barely above the baby's cries. He clamped a meaty hand harder on her arm, bruises blooming instantly under his fingers like dark flowers on pale skin. This whelp's got my eyes, my hair. Folks are already jawing about it from one end of the gulch to the other. Eliza hears the full truth, and I'm done for. The bank's calling in my notes. The railroad pulls all my strings. No room for your mistake in my house of cards. Maria twisted free with desperate strength, clutching the infant tightly to her breast, tears carving white paths through the flour dust caked on her face from a long shift. "Harlan, please," she pleaded, her voice breaking like fragile glass. 8 months you came sneaking to my room upstairs. You swore you'd stand by me if it came to this. He's your blood. Our blood." Her words hung heavy in the thick air, drawing stares from every corner. The barkeep froze mid-pour, amber whiskey dripping forgotten onto the bar. Cards halted mid-shuffle at the gaming tables. Even the piano man's fingers stilled on the keys, the last note dying into silence. Harlan's mustache twitched as he leaned in close, his whiskey-soured breath hot against her cheek. Blood or not, he don't exist come morning. Dawn at the Arkansas River, 5 miles out. You drag him there yourself, or I haul you both to the cottonwood tree, and this time, no preacher mutters prayers over the rope. Maria crumpled back against the booth, racking sobs shaking her slender frame as the baby squirmed in distress against her. The saloon exhaled collectively as Harlan's cold gaze scanned the shadows, landing on his unwilling tool. Quay, the town's lone Shoshone holdout, leaning against the far wall, nursing a tin cup of coffee gone stone cold. Quay was 35, wiry and weathered like old leather, with long black hair braided neatly under a faded headband and fringed leggings scarred from countless mountain trails. His people, the eastern Shoshone, had once roamed these valleys freely, hunting elk under endless skies and trading pelts at Bent's Fort. But smallpox epidemics and broken treaties had whittled his band to ghosts. Now he scraped by as a scout for wagon trains, a horsebreaker for ranchers, and a tracker for posies chasing rustlers. Harlan held the leash tight, a bogus deed to the last 160 acres of Shoshone grazeland outside town, filed crooked in the county books by a bribed clerk. Lose it, and Quay's few surviving kin, an elder auntie and orphaned nephews, had nowhere left to turn. No buffalo grass for their ponies, no sacred springs for their prayers. Harlan crooked a finger at him, sharp as a command to a dog. "You, Stables, move." Quay set down his cup with deliberate slowness, rising with the fluid grace of wind bending sagebrush. His obsidian eyes locked onto Harlan's for a fleeting moment, a flicker of ancient defiance crushed under the weight of necessity. He slipped out the back door into the cooling night, where jackrabbits skittered across the dust and the scent of creosote bush mingled with fresh horse manure from the corrals. Harlan followed, slamming the stable door behind them with a boom that echoed off the rafters. Hay dust danced in the lantern light as he jabbed a thick finger into Quay's chest, hard enough to bruise ribs. River detail at first light. The saloon girl drags the bundle down there. You drop it clean. No splash, no trace. Bury the blanket downstream if you have to. Make it vanish like morning mist. Quay's voice came flat and unyielding as creek pebbles smoothed by 100 floods. River spirits see all. Child cries carry far on the wind. Harlan threw his head back and laughed, a harsh bark like splitting dry wood under an axe. Spirits don't vote on deeds or hold guns, boy. Do it, or tomorrow that paper burns in my fireplace. Your people end up camping in arroyos, scavenging with white trash picking over their bones. Quay stared at the straw-strewn floor, his fists clenching slowly at his sides. Images flashed unbidden. His father's fevered death in a smallpox tent. Sisters sold south across the border. The sacred springs now dammed and diverted for the railroad's water tanks. He nodded once, sharp as a knife edge slicing hide, and melted into the darkness toward his camp under the cottonwoods, the weight of the night pressing heavy on his shoulders. Upstairs in her cramped attic room above the saloon, Maria bolted the door and barricaded it with a rickety trunk that smelled of mothballs and despair. She paced the creaking floorboards, nursing the boy until her breasts ached with emptiness, whispering frantic prayers in the Gaelic her mother had taught her by a cold hearth in Boston. Through the thin walls seeped the snores and muffled giggles from the revelers downstairs. Outside, a chorus of coyotes yowled mournfully across the sage flats. Sleep fled her like a spooked Mustang bolting for the hills. Every creak of the building was Harlan's heavy boot on the stairs. Every gust rattling the shutters was his fist pounding for entry. She pressed her lips to the baby's downy head one last time, inhaling his pure milky scent mingled with the faint river mud promise of what was to come, steeling her heart for the unthinkable task awaiting at dawn. The Arkansas River waited, its waters churning with secrets and judgments older than the mountains themselves. Chapter 2. Quay knelt frozen on the Arkansas riverbank as dawn's first pink light touched the snowy peaks. The river thundered past, swollen with mountain snowmelt, its waters churning white foam around jagged boulders and tangled pine branches. Cold spray misted his weathered face like spectral tears, carrying scents of sharp pine sap, wet shale, and thick river mud churned by his boots. In his arms, the baby boy squirmed softly against the wool blanket, those sky-blue eyes locking onto Quay's with wide, trusting innocence. A tiny fist broke free, grasping at the chill air. The child's cries pierced the roar, small but fierce, like a hawk's first call from the nest. Quay's chest tightened like a snare line pulled taut. He was no butcher of innocence. His Shoshone blood pulsed with elders' tales told around crackling fires under starlit skies. He recalled his grandmother's voice, low and gravelly. Rivers hold spirits older than men, grander than mountains. They judge the heart's truth, not the hand's deed. The pure float to safety, the tainted sink like stones. Quay scanned the misty banks, willows heavy with dew, no tracks but his own moccasin prints in the gravel. Maria's keening wail still echoed faintly from her flight up the trail. Harlan slumbered miles away in his ranch house, lost to whiskey dreams of gold and unchallenged power. No eyes watched here save the river's ancient gaze. His choice crystallized, clear as the breaking dawn. He would not drown this child. Let the waters decide the path, as spirits intended. From the leather pouch at his belt, Quay drew his old reed basket, woven years ago from tough river grass near the sacred springs. Its sides held strong, no leaks, no frays, having carried fish, roots, even his nephew's carved toys through floods and drought. He gathered thick green moss from willow roots, its fresh spring rain scent filling his nostrils, and lined the bottom cushion soft. The warm wool blanket from his own shoulders went next, cradling the boy snugly, head elevated above any slosh, arms free to flail. Sinew cord lashed the handles secure, knots tight as fate's weave. Quay rose slowly, boots sinking into soft gravel, and approached the water's edge where the current pulled strongest, hungry and relentless. The Arkansas ran wild here, deep and narrow, devouring all in its path. Boulders looming black subsurface, driftwood snags spinning in deadly eddies. He whispered a prayer in the ancient Shoshone tongue, words passed from his father's lips. Grandfather Waters, behold this child's heart. Claim if balance demands, or bear him to healing hands. Kneeling once more, he set the basket in the shallows. The flow tugged gently at first, testing its resolve, then seized it fully. The craft shot forward, rocking wildly through the foam. Quay gripped a gnarled willow root, breath held as if his own life hung in the balance. The basket slammed against a submerged rock, reeds crunching in protest, but held firm. Water sloshed over the rim, soaking the moss, dipping the vessel low, half swallowed by the churn. Yet it bobbed resiliently, the baby's cries sharpening then fading as it caught a smoother channel. Now it glided steadily, weaving past a snag of bleached driftwood, sunlight gilding the water gold like a divine blessing. Quay watched through long minutes until it rounded a distant bend, vanishing into glare and mist. Gone from his world, but delivered to destiny. He stood alone, hands trembling against the cold, the weight of betrayal settling like canyon shadows. Defying Harlan meant death, a hangman's noose or a bullet in the back from ambush, but a profound peace rooted deep in his bones. He had spared a soul this day. Kneeling again, Quay smoothed the mud with calloused palms, kicked gravel over his boot prints, scattered pine needles to erase all trace. He slipped up the embankment, silent as a deer through thick scrub oak and sagebrush. By midday, he reached his camp, a lean-to of weathered hides under ancient cottonwoods. His auntie stirred beans over dying coals, her sharp eyes reading his silence without a word. Shoshone knew when spirits had spoken. Quay sat heavily, staring into the embers, the river's roar still echoing in his ears. Sleep came fitful that night, chased by visions of blue eyes amid white water. 12 miles downstream, where the Arkansas widened into lazy bends fringed by timbered shores, old trapper Jedediah Brown poled his flatboat along the current. Pushing 60, he was grizzled as winter bark. Gray beard to his chest, face creased like weathered boot leather from decades of wind and relentless sun. A limp twisted his left leg from a grizzly mauling in '72, which had also left him childless. His young wife perished birthing stillborn twins soon after. He lived simply now. Beaver traps strung along misty sloughs, a small goat herd for milk and cheese, pelts traded to rail workers at the next camp upriver. No kin remained, no visitors disturbed his solitude, just him, his mule Bess, and hymns whistled tunelessly to the river's rhythm. That morning, under a clear blue sky, Jed poled steadily, eyes sharp for snags or otter sign. A glint caught his attention, something unnatural bobbing in a slow eddy, snagged on a half-submerged cottonwood log. He spat a wad of tobacco juice and muttered, "What fools litter in my river?" Swinging the pole deftly, he hooked the edge and hauled it aboard. The reed basket dripped heavy, rocking lightly in his grip. Wet leaves and moss peeked from within. Jed leaned close, boat tipping precariously. A faint cry reached him. Real, human, desperate. His heart lurched. He yanked it fully aboard, steadying with practiced hands. Pushing back the sodden blanket revealed the baby boy, pink skin chilled but unbroken, river mud streaking pale cheeks and a tuft of blonde hair. Blue eyes blinked open, staring up fearless. Tiny mouth worked hungrily, fists waving at Jed's encrusted whiskers. No bruises marred the fragile form, no blood, just the wild gift of the waters. Jed's calloused hands turned tender as he lifted the child. Lord Almighty, a miracle floatin' in with the driftwood, he rasped, voice thick with awe. He scanned the empty shores, towering pines whispering. Rabbit tracks faint in the mud, no human sign for miles. Upstream trouble, no doubt, but none of his affair. The boy latched a fierce grip on Jed's thumb, strong beyond his size. Jed chuckled deep from his barrel chest, eyes misting for the first time in years, cracking the ice of long loneliness. He poled hard for home, Bess the mule braying a welcome from the corral. His cabin hugged the bank, a stout log shell with clay chinking, chimney puffing sweet pine smoke. Inside smelled of dried herbs, tanned hides, and aging goat cheese on rough shelves. Jed banked the fire high, fetched warm milk from the pail, and carved a rag feeder from clean cloth. Dribbling slow drops to the boy's lips drew first sputters, then eager gulps. The milk vanished in minutes. The child burped contentedly, eyes drooping heavy. Jed rocked him slowly by the hearth, humming a ragged, amazing grace. "River Brown, that's you, boy. Born of the wild water, tough as these hills." Weeks melted into moons. River thrived on goat milk, corn mush, and Jed's rough-hewn love. Jed crafted a pine cradle with rockers, whittled bear claw charms for luck. By firelight, he spun yarns of frontier ghosts, lost mines, and grizzly hunts. River cooed at the flames, tugged Jed's beard, crawled dirt floors chasing the barn cat, laughed uproariously at mule impressions. Jed taught first words. River, goat mama, star. The boy always pointed west, as if calling to some unseen home. No bounty hunters came, no lost mother posters nailed to rail stops. Black Gulch faded to distant rumor. Jed's cabin brimmed with life anew, mending the emptiness one dawn at a time. He whittled willow toys, miniature horses, boats, a tiny bow. River toddled by spring, chased chickens through mud, splashed shallows unafraid, water feeling like kin. Jed watched with fierce pride, rifle ever ready for wolves or worse. "You're my boy now," he'd growl softly. "River forged us family, against all odds." Far upstream in Black Gulch, high noon baked the dirt streets to cracking. Harlan paced the jailhouse porch, spurs clinking fury, sweat carving trails through dust-caked cheeks. Maria had vanished at dawn, slipping east on the first train, her eyes hollow as unmarked graves. He cornered Quay in the livery alley, hay dust swirling in the heat. Grabbing the buckskin shirt, he slammed Quay against the wall. "Where's the proof, Injun? Blanket? Boot print? Something to shut the wagging tongues?" Quay met his glare evenly, voice steady as stone. River swallowed it clean. Deep holes claimed all. Harlan shook him viciously, fist cocked back. "You lie and I string you from the gallows myself." "Deputies ride downstream tomorrow. Find bones or you swing." Quay held firm, heart calm beneath the storm. No deception stained his words. Harlan shoved him into the manure pile and stormed off, cursing rivers and fates. He dispatched 2 green deputies with hooks and lines. They dragged snags for 3 sweltering days. Old boots, deer bones, a bloated coyote carcass. Nothing small, nothing human. Harlan growled orders, his glare silencing saloon whispers. Wild tales die quick in this gulch. Town life churned onward. Mines blasting deeper, trains groaning under heavier loads, Harlan's pockets swelling fatter still. His wife Eliza baked pies, oblivious to the fading murmurs, while their sons played sheriff in the yard with toy badges. But Harlan woke nights, staring at ceiling beams shadowed by lantern light. Blue eyes haunted his whiskey-soaked dreams, a seed of doubt sprouting slow and insidious. What if the river had lied too? Downstream by Jed's hearth, little River slept soundly, a fire glow warming his innocent face, safe in arms that had chosen him from the wild. The Arkansas whispered on, keeping its silent promise to the pure of heart. Chapter 3. 13 years slipped past like fleeting shadows across the high plains, carrying Black Gulch from raw boomtown to a roaring hub of wealth and vice. It was 1898 now. Muddy ruts had hardened into plank boardwalks echoing with boot heels. A brick bank loomed over Main Street, its iron vaults stuffed with miners' dreams. Electric wires hummed from new poles, casting a buzzard's glow over saloons ablaze till midnight. The Denver and Rio Grande Railroad added spurs, trains hauling silver ingots and coal cars in ceaseless rhythm, their whistles piercing the night like lonesome coyote calls. Fine stores peddled silk from San Francisco and tinned delicacies from back east. A brass band oomphed for the mayor's ribbon cuttings on new opera houses. Yet gold fever bred deeper greed. Claim wars turned streets bloody. Chinese rail gangs huddled in shanties by the tracks, their lanterns flickering like trapped fireflies. Beneath the gloss, the old grit festered. Harlan Cole still pulled the strings from his sheriff's office, but time had carved its toll. At 55, he moved slower, gray streaking his once black mustache, deep lines etching his face like dry arroyos after flash floods. His grip had only tightened, meaner and more desperate. He owned bank shares now, squeezing loans from desperate prospectors. 3 saloons paid monthly protection in fat envelopes. Railroad barons slipped him bribes under poker tables heavy with cigar ash. His ranch sprawled across 2,000 acres up the canyon, cattle lowing under vast skies. Eliza had passed quietly in 92, consumption stealing her breath one rainy spring morning. No dramatic scene, just a rattle and gone. Harlan wed Clara 2 years later, a quiet schoolmarm half his age, bought with lace gowns and promises of security. She baked pies and smiled at town dances, her eyes sliding past his dark past like a blind mare. The saloon girl tale had faded to barstool myth, crushed under Harlan's glares and fists. He burned old ledgers in the jailhouse stove, paid bards to croon ballads of his taming the gulch, lies taking root deeper than mesquite. But sleep betrayed him utterly. Nights brought fevered visions, a reed basket spinning in white foam, blue eyes staring from churning dark water, soft baby wails riding the wind through his window cracks. He'd bolt upright, sweating rivers, Colt 45 clutched white-knuckled, scanning shadows that hid nothing but his unraveling mind. Rye whiskey filled the void, bottles drained by cockcrow, hangovers sharpening his temper to a razor's edge. He kept Quee chained close as deputy now, fear masked as loyalty. That yellowed Shoshone deed moldered in Harlan's safe, a rusted noose binding them both. Quee had aged rougher still, silver threads weaving his braids, obsidian eyes dulled by rotgut and the slow poison of lost ways. He rode shotgun on posies chasing rustlers, tracked fugitives silent as smoke through sage. Town called him Cole's Hound, spitting the words like chew. Deep down, he waited with Shoshone patience, long as the river's curve. The boy lived in his whispered prayers by campfires, a seed planted against the spirit's wind. 100 miles downstream, where the Arkansas looped through timbered bends, Jedediah Brown's world held fast against the year's erosion. Jed died sudden in 89, heart bursting while checking spring traps under deep snowdrifts. River was 12 then, finding him stiff beneath white pines, face peaceful as a carved totem. The boy dug the grave alone with mule and spade, sweat freezing on his brow, marking it with Jed's old Hawken rifle thrust barrel down into the earth. Neighbors trickled in, a trapper widow with venison stew, 2 rail hands with young ones in tow. "You're kin to Jed now, River," the widow said, pressing a worn Bible into his hands. The cabin stayed his. Goats milked true, traps yielded pelts. River grew tall and spare, like a young cottonwood thrusting from flood-enriched soil. Blonde hair fell long to his shoulders, tied back with raw hide. Blue eyes cut sharp as fresh-forged flint. Broad shoulders from splitting pine logs dawned to dusk. Calloused hands that fixed roofs, shod mules, notched steel traps. Jed had taught him everything, setting jaws for beaver in moonlit sloughs, calling elk during rut with throaty bugles, reading wind shifts for brewing storms. Track bear by claw gouges in bark, shoot true at 50 yards with iron sights, name the stars, Polaris guiding north, Pleiades chasing the hunter. Water bonded them deepest. River swam icy holes stripped bare, dove for agates polished smooth as river eggs. Questions burned bright as he grew, nagging like winter itch. By firelight, he'd press Jed's ghost in his mind. "Where'd the river drop me, old man? Who put me in that basket?" No answers came, only Jed's remembered growl. "Clean slate, boy. Water washed the bad clean. Forge your own trail." But an upstream tug pulled relentless, dreams haunting his sleep. Rocky hills cloaked in dawn-pink foam, a woman's distant cry, a blue-eyed man with mustache raised in command. Like salmon scenting sea salt across miles. By 18, River stood full man, quiet power in his lean frame, handsome jaw shadowed by sunburned skin. Folks noted it, eyes too wise for these hillbilly bends, city blood under trapper dirt. Hard times crashed the bends in 97. A rail spur snaked close, loggers buzzing saws from canary dawn to owl dusk, pines toppling like felled giants. The widow sold the cabin for pennies to a Denver speculator sniffing timber profits. River packed light. Jed's mule saddled heavy, 50 silver dollars from pelt sales jingling in a poke. Colt Peacemaker oiled and loaded. He rode north slow, trailing Arkansas glints like a hound on scent. Dreams sharpening vivid. River foam at pink dawn. Woman's keen fading on trail. Hardman's voice ordering death. Wagon trails thickened to ruts. Towns sprouted like toadstools. Saloons spilling ragtime. Depots hammering nails. Corrals thick with horse apples steaming in dust. He worked odd jobs to eat. Broke broncs for hardscrabble ranchers. Strung wire for rail gangs cursing Mandarin overseers. Trapped wolves for bounty posters fluttering on posts. Each night by lonely fires, the pull intensified. Black Gulch loomed in his mind, name unknown but etched like a brand. Smoke plumes, electric buzz, blood call. Black Gulch hit the senses like a prize bull. Coal smoke choked the high desert air. Frying bacon wafted from diners, undercut by horse manure steaming on dirt streets. Train whistles pierced long and mournful. Electric trolleys sparked past brick stores gleaming with plate glass. Saloon pianos thumped ragtime fast, red lanterns swinging invitation. River tied the mule at the livery, paid 2 bits to a gap-toothed hostler. Walked the boardwalks deliberate, spurs whispering soft, clean buckskin pants, wool vest worn true but mended neat, Stetson low over eyes that missed nothing. Men sized him wary, drifter, gun hand, trouble carved in his stride. Women glanced twice, whispers trailing like dust devils, pretty as sin, hard as nails. Harlan held court on the jailhouse porch, boots propped on the rail, a thick cigar trailing blue smoke that curled like accusing fingers. Deputy Quee oiled his Winchester nearby, rag moving methodical. Both spotted the stranger ride in slow dust plume marking his trail. Harlan's gut knotted vice-tight. That stride, long, rolling, sure-footed. Jaw firm as his own in faded tintypes from youth. Blonde hair catching midday sun like pale fire. Blue eyes flashed cold under the brim. A mirror from the grave, the ghost of 85 risen tall. "Who's that pup sniffing my town?" Harlan rasped, ash flicking hot to the planks. Quee's rag stilled mid-stroke, breath snagging. He saw it full grown, the basket boy, delivered by river spirits as prayed. Flesh of old prayer, returned to settle scales. River ducked into the assay office, voice steady. "Day work? Mines, rails, ranches open?" The clerk eyed the low-slung Colt, then sketched a quick map. "Town's flush with cash. Harlan Cole's spread hires tough hands. Fence riders, up Gulch 5 miles. No slackers." River nodded cool, pocketed the paper, rode the canyon trail as sun dipped to bloody orange. Dust cloud trailed him like a banner. Town tongues wagged wildfire fast. Harlan's bastard ghostin' back, eyes matched too damn close. Quee shadowed distant on his paint pony, heart drumming ancestral rhythm. The river's debt wheeled full circle now. Return had come, and reckoning rode in its wake. Chapter 4. Frost crusted the ranch yard as dawn cracked cold over Black Gulch, turning snow-capped peaks to tongues of fire in the first weak light. River Brown stirred early in the bunkhouse, rough hands snoring deep under scratchy wool blankets, boots still caked with yesterday's red mud. He rose silent as mist, splashed his face in the icy horse trough, water biting sharp as a rattler's strike, shocking every nerve awake. Clean buckskin pants and wool vest next, mended neat at the seams. He checked his Colt Peacemaker. Cylinder spun smooth, 6.45 rounds heavy in their chambers, hammer crisp under thumb. Out in the corral, horses nickered low, breath clouding white in the still air. Chuckwagon coffee boiled black and bitter over glowing coals, its aroma cutting the manure tang. The foreman, a scarred Texan missing one eye from a bar fight, bellowed muster from the gate. North fence line, storm-snapped wire last week. Ride hard, fix fast, no goddamn lollygaggers. River caught a bay gelding's eye, saddled him quick with steady hands that knew rope and cinch. Swung up smooth as river silk, joined 5 riders pounding canyon trail, sagebrush whipping at stirrups, dust kicking faint in the frozen air. He felt eyes on his back already, prickling like a distant gun sight. Up on the big house porch, Harlan Cole gripped the rail till splinters bit his palms, knuckles bleaching white. Sleep had fled him utterly. Night spent pacing creaking boards, whiskey jug half drained, dreams clawing with blue-eyed ghosts rising from river mud, basket reeds dripping accusations. That firelit profile from last night burned permanent, blonde Q glowing, jaw carved like his own at 25, eyes judging cold as a hangman's noose. Clara called soft from the kitchen door, voice honey over fear. Eggs frying crisp, bacon sizzling, biscuits hot from the oven, come eat, Harlan, before it colds. He barked her back inside without a glance. Quiet, woman. Trouble's boiling over. Door slammed, echo sharp. Deputy Quee stood at the yard's edge, jaw swelled purple from Harlan's fist, Winchester slung loose over shoulder. Face carved from canyon granite, but eyes held river-deep fire. Call the boy. Bunkhouse. No crowd, Harlan rasped, voice gravel in his throat. Quay nodded deliberate, swung onto his paint pony, tracked the crew north at a lope. Found River at a washout, wire sagging like a drunk, posts tilted in red dirt scar. Hammer rang steady as he drove new stakes, sweat beating despite the chill. Boss wants words, big house, you alone. Quee's tone flat as polished creek stones, but eyes spoke volumes of the river's long debt. River nodded the final twist of wire, wiped his hands slow on chaps. Gut pulled vice tight now, dreams flooding back, basket rocking in pink foam, woman's cry faint on the trail, hard man's command like thunder. Lead on. No flinch, no haste. Mounted the bay, followed Quee back through scrub oak thickets, sage scent sharp on the wind. Ranch hands paused, hammers mid-swing, glanced side-eye from barbed wire. Whispers sparked bunkhouse fast as dry grass. New man's in the boss's crosshairs. Cole don't call for coffee chat. The big house parlor reeked of stale cigar smoke and beeswax polish on Navajo rugs worn threadbare. Harlan paced like a wolf too long chained, oak table scarred from old fists, rifle leaning in the chimney corner, loaded fresh, walnut stock gleaming. Frost rimed the windows, plains stretching gray and empty beyond. Door creaked on leather hinges. River filled the frame tall, Stetson doffed respectful in his hands, blonde Q catching hearth glow like pale flame. Harlan spun on boot thunder, slammed the door shut, room shrank trap tight, air thick as chokecherry smoke. Sit there. Finger stabbed at the oak chair by the hearth. River sat loose, legs crossed easy, hands open on knees, no tension in his frame. You ain't no hill rat. Speak your roots true. Who sent the spy to test me? Harlan loomed tower close, breath sour with rye, mustache twitching wild like a cornered rattler. River held the blue gaze mirror lock, chill wind whistling through window cracks. Jedediah Brown hooked my reed basket from Arkansas foam when I was baby days old. No ma trail, no pa name. River's gift, pure. Harlan's laugh barked dry as bleached bones. Hand crashed the table. Coffee pot jumped. Tin cups shattering porcelain rain across the floor. Horse shit. 85 saloon sluts whelp. Pale as milk, eyes staring my own damn blue back at me. You reek of that old sin like river mud. River leaned forward an inch, voice steel calm over the river's memory. No saloon in my head. No slut face. Dreams dragged me north. Your dirt under boots, your smoke in the air, blood tugging like a hook. Why this gulch call so loud? Harlan paced frenzy now, spurs jangling discord, sweat slicking his brow despite the frostbite nip. Drew his Colt half from leather, hammer cocksnick loud as doom in the dead room. You dream me? Blood sings too true. Maria begged you'd sink clean in the Arkansas. Quee the coward floated you soft instead. Boot heels drummed boards like war thunder. Eliza's portrait watched blank from the wall. Ghost judge with lace-collared disdain. Ranch's mind sprawlin', town bows low. You walk in, threads pull loose in my web. I fix this permanent, dawn or not. River rose fluid as a cat from crouch, no hand drifting to iron. Eyes drilled soul deep into Harlan's fraying mask. River spared me once. Test fate twice, see what hungers. Harlan lunged bull rage, Colt butt smashing River's cheekbone. Crack like green oak snapping. Blood welled hot. trickling jawline red. River reeled against the porch post but held feet planted firm, no fall, eyes blazing hotter blue than forge fire. Door exploded in splinters. Quee filled the breach. Winchester leveled iron steady at Harlan's chest, barrel unwavering. No more red spilled here. Truth hour strikes now. Voice rolled low thunder, jaw bruise blackening to plum. Harlan whirled spit snake quick. Traitor dog, you basket saved the bastard, lied 13 years through the seasons. Quay stepped deliberate into the frame, tossed the yellow deed onto the rug. Shoshone claim, ink faded but binding as chain. Land free, yours true. Kin ride safe now. Chain breaks clean. Back toward the door wide, wind howling fury through, frost claws raking the air. River dabbed blood with his sleeve, slow, deliberate. Flood hit hard. Woman's keen trailing faint up the embankment, basket dipping moss wet in foam. Blue eyes ordering death from the saloon, dark. You're the dream man. Mouth ran death on me small. River heard prayer. Spat me safe downstream. Harlan froze, statue still. Colt clattered to the boards, rolling lazy. Face drained grave ash, mustache drooping limp as defeat. Clara shrieked wild from the kitchen. Iron pan crashing floor. Bunkhouse hands boiled into the yard like stirred ants. Rifles glinting in dawn light. Chaos spilled yard wide like a creek dam breaking. River stepped onto the porch steady despite the blood trail blackening his jaw. Mounted the bay calm as pond water. Rode out the gate at a trot. Dust plume rising gold in the climbing sun. Word raced the gulch faster than rail steam. Riders pounded trails hollering. Cole bloodied the new man's face. Hired gun turning coat. By high noon, Main Street choked with mobs. Miners dropping picks, shaft black. Saloon doors swinging drunk rage wide. Rail yard boss wired Denver frantic. Cole's notes called due sharp. Repossess the cars now. Bank vault clanged open. Harlan's loans piled vulture high, interest like noose tight. Old timers pieced the saloon yarn thread by bloody thread. 85 light-skinned baby. Harlan's fling with the dance hall gal. Deputy engine hushed it deep. Whispers roared to mob shout. Red Rock Saloon packed wall to wall, fists flying over tables, glass shattering street front. String the tyrant high, debts bury him proper. Quay vanished into the sage like smoke on wind. Gathered his hillkin, sisters with babes, elder auntie sharp-eyed, orphaned nephews wide with hope. Wagons creaked loaded with hides, iron pots, bows strung fresh. Deed clutched iron true in his fist. Rode east trail dawn free, ponies sure-footed over ancient ground. Shoshone wind returned to hills long lost, no chain binding now. Spirits smiled from river silver. Harlan bolted the jailhouse behind stone walls, thick, barricaded door with oak benches piled high. Whiskey jug shattered against a rock through the window. Clara packed her trunk, frantic, eastbound train ticket crushed in white-knuckled grip. No more blood on my hands, Harlan. Door slammed final as judgment. Sun dipped blood red behind peaks. Posse formed on the street, torches flaring. Miners leading with pickmatics, railmen coiling hemp rope thick. Not for River's blood, for the throne's fall. Tyrant hangs from cottonwood at dawn. Roar shook boardwalks to planks. Harlan's window barked Colt wild, lead whistling high, missing wide. Midnight hour struck. He saddled the black stallion in storm boil frenzy, thunder growling canyon deep. Lightning forked peaks white hot. Rain lashed like bullwhips. Horse slipped on shale rim, scream echoing void. Harlan pitched into air-free black, canyon rocks gnashing teeth. Leg snapped wetwood crack, ribs crushed gasp from lungs. Tumbled shale chute endless, final thud into mud pool cold. Eyes stared blind at wheeling stars. No prayer on lips, just wind-moaning coyote dirge over broken empire. Days healed the gulch slow under new skies. Mayor pinned silver star to River's vest amid street cheer horse as hounds. Interim sheriff, Black Gulch breathes free again. Town hands clasped firm. Saloons poured rotgut free till barrels ran dry. Mines rang pick true and deep. River walked the Arkansas bank at soft dusk, gravel crunching under boot. Found a shard of old Rede, grass weave sun-bleached, moss memory faint. Touched it gentle with scarred finger. River spirits nodded in the wind whisper. Circle locked iron tight. Years later, River stood same bank, wife soft hand in his, son blue-eyed chasing a reed boat launch into current. Basket echo in the laugh. Arkansas ran eternal silver. Water had judged perfect. What man drowned in hate, the river forged justice. Taller, stronger, to heal land, broke wide. Black Gulch thrived legend-born, faded truths. History unearthed bone truth from dust. River flowed on, secrets safe in current deep.